Welcome to OJ Health Radio. I'm your host, Ollie Matthews, a health coach, functional medicine healthcare provider, nutrition therapist, and elite personal trainer who has worked with clients all over the world, from high-achieving entrepreneurs, busy professionals, and world champion athletes. We're going to dive into the depths of health to find out how you will be able to reach your peak performance and truly become the revitalizer that you deserve to be. Covering topics around all things health, from the mind and body to lifestyle optimization and movement, along with getting elite business experts on to talk through your business health at the same time. We really do have all areas covered to help you succeed once and for all. No excuses necessary. It's time to become a revitalizer. Remember what we always say, your body is your business. And without a sustainable body, you haven't got a sustainable or scalable business. So get strapped in, get ready to take your body, your mindset, relationships, and business to the next level. Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to talk about adrenal fatigue. Now, this is something which I've spoken to many people in different industries with different professional qualifications as to say, is it actually a thing? And can we actually tell that we're burning out before we actually burn out? What are those signs? And if adrenal fatigue is or isn't a thing, what is actually going on? Because no doubt you've seen those frustrations that your body just isn't playing ball like the way you know that it could do and the way you know that it should do in order to allow you to live your life fully and function at your peak performance. And if you don't function at your peak performance, you see the implications in your relationships with your friends, your family, your loved ones. You see the implications in your own body when you look in the mirror, and then you see the implications in your business. And no one wants to see those implications, those negative implications over and over again, because their body is on the way to burnout. Now, I put my presentation up on my podcast that I'd done in Medellin in July. Jesus, over a month ago now. I'll be doing another presentation in Miami for Ron Reich and Selena Sue's mastermind in November. So if anyone is looking to see me speak live or anything like that, then drop me a message. I can give you the details. Highly recommend just going in for the marketing side of things and the knowledge that you will learn, not just from my own talk, but from everyone else's. However, I spoke about burning out, and I spoke about signs that sleep is impacting your productivity, or your energy is impacting your productivity, and you're not performing at your best. And these are certain things which are very much linked to burnout. And also I go through this in my 21-day brain fog blitz. If you want information about that, drop me a message and I will give you the information about it. The early bird starts next week. Now, the symptoms that you have are things like you're constantly getting fatigued and you're getting frustrated. You're waking up and you're tired. You're going to bed and you're tired. You're in the afternoon and you're tired. You're constantly fatigued. Maybe that's mid-afternoon, you get this little energy dip or big energy dip and your brain stops working. And the same in the morning. And we constantly need these pick-me-ups. We're relying on caffeine all the time to get us through, and we need those stimulants to push us through. Maybe it's that you're tired and wired when it comes to bedtime, that you can't switch off, that you need to finish the things at work and you need to do all these things around the house, and then you lay your head down on the pillow and you are so tired, but suddenly you just wake up and your brain will not switch off. It's a massive sign that you're on the road to burning out. People have problems with weight loss. Having weight loss issues is a massive sign that you're burning out. Maybe you are following that calorie deficit that people say that you need to follow, and you are looking at calories in versus calories out, but something just doesn't seem to be clicking. It doesn't seem to be playing ball. It could be that you're burning out. It could be also that you get brain fog. It could be that you have signs that your brain just isn't functioning like it would normally. You feel like you're just banging against a brick wall when it comes to that. There's some fog there. You can't pick up your words. Your memory goes. You walk into a room and you can't remember where you left your keys or what you went in there for. All these things come up, and then you sit down and do work, and then you're just not very productive. Timekeeping goes. All these different things happen. Then we have things like your sex drive dropping. Now, with your sex drive, it's a big one. And people usually link it with age, but it's massively linked with the adrenals and the stress we put on our body. And if you are not feeling as up for it as you would normally or a few years ago, don't just sign it off and say, that's because I'm getting older. Be honest with yourself. Are you doing everything you can do, or are you actually burning out? And the same with like going into details and things. Are you getting as hard as you would do? Or if you're a woman, are you getting as wet as you would do? All these different things link into, are we burning out? And it's a massive thing. And then we have this pressure to perform and all this sort of stuff. Psychologically, it then becomes more and more of a stressor. We have more irritability if we're burning out. So we will just lash out at people for no good reason. Maybe we're searching for someone to just troll on the internet, or we're searching for like something to just kick off at our partner. You then have problems with blood glucose and hyperglycemia specifically, and you get high and low, potentially reactive hyperglycemia, where you then are just going to get hanger issues as well. You're going to get loads and loads of cravings. You're going to have loads of problems there. Constantly getting sick. Big one is waking up through the night, or just having problems generally with your actual sleep. And all of these link with high inflammation within the body. Now, at times we need to have inflammation. If you cut yourself and it swells up, and that's the inflammation process starting the healing process, or the healing process starting with inflammation, we do need that. But excess inflammation, just like excess stress, chronic stress over time, acute stress we need to develop new cells, new brain cells, and to help our body regenerate and grow. We need that. It's these chronic stress levels over time consistently that are causing us issues. Now, where did this term adrenal fatigue come from? Well, there was a guy, Hans Selye, pronunciation I may have got wrong, Hans Selye, who was around in the 1930s, and he had a theory that if we are, and it was all linked with the rodents he was doing testing on and chasing after them and so on, and then realized they all had stomach ulcers because of stress. And he thought that if we are more stressed, we release more stress hormones, more cortisol. We release more adrenaline and then more cortisol, which is all well and good. And then it may come a time, and when we then get these chronic fatigue issues, that cortisol has then stopped being produced by the adrenals. So therefore it was linked with adrenal fatigue, and it was then labeled adrenal fatigue. Now in Western medicine, they won't go down that route, which is one frustration I have. Excuse me. Because then we link it into like Cushing's disease and autoimmune conditions and things. But when we actually look at what is going on, adrenal fatigue isn't what I would label it, because it's not your adrenals wearing down producing cortisol. The problem is happening elsewhere. And if we look at how naturally our body happens to work, we should have high cortisol in the morning, then it goes low and then really low in the evening, when we then should have melatonin, our sleep hormone, to charge or chill us out, not charge us up, chill us out. And a lot of people are getting their HPA axis out of whack, and your cortisol curve is out of whack. And we're not getting it high at the right times and low at the right times. Now, I touched on there an HPA axis. We have multiple axes. That is the plural, right? Axes. We have multiple axes within our body. HPA for adrenals, then there's thyroid, gonad, like there's loads of different axes that work in our body to signal things to then happen, like a whole chain of events. Now, this is where our hypothalamus, gland in the brain, and pituitary in the brain will signal something to happen. And in this case, we're looking deeper on the adrenals, so your HPA axis. Now, what happens is when we have this stress response, our hypothalamus will release corticotropin, a neurotransmitter, and it will signal corticotropin releasing factor to get released into the pituitary to then signal an adrenal corticotropic hormone, ACTH. Don't need to know that. It's just geeking out on science there. Basically, the hypothalamus will send a signal to the pituitary to send a signal to the adrenals that we need to release adrenaline, which is all well and good. We need that. So we have that stress response. We have that stress response that makes us want to run away from the lion. So our pupils will get better vision. They'll start dilating there. When we'll actually get more blood flow to the limbs, less to the gut. So when we're stressed, we have less digestive, and our blood will thin, or blood will clot more. Sorry, because if we run away from that lion and we get bitten, we want our blood to clot so we can fix ourselves and stop the bleeding and then keep going. All these things that in hundreds and hundreds of years ago would have been very, very powerful. There's a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers by Robert Sapolsky that talks about how zebras will spend their day just grazing on grass, and then they have this big stress response when there's a lion chasing after them. Someone will get killed in their pack. Someone will get killed in their pack, but then suddenly they go straight back to grazing because the lion has gone away. They don't have that on-off, that stress response, which is just constantly switched on like we do. Therefore, they don't get the ulcers. And I highly recommend looking into Robert Sapolsky's work. But here's the thing. When we have good functioning HPA axis, the hypothalamus will signal to the pituitary to signal to the adrenals, and then cortisol gets released. Now, when we have enough cortisol, our hypothalamus should be signaling to the pituitary to stop the signaling. However, that message doesn't always get delivered because of stress. So we have cortisol, which is a stress hormone, but your pituitary gland is massively impacted by other stresses that are going on. So when we look at toxins, we look at your environment around you, the toxins, the BPAs in the chemicals in the air, the mold that is in a lot of houses that we live in, the toxins that are thrown at us left, right, and center day in, day out. That's going to have a big impact on the way our pituitary works. Then some people have a sedentary lifestyle that they're not getting enough movement in. That's going to have a big impact. People that are on high levels of calorie restrictive diet. So if you've been dieting for a long while and getting frustrated, maybe we need to stop dieting for a bit and slowly boost your food up so we can get your body functioning better. And then it doesn't hold on to that inflammation as much. Things like looking at your diet, so refined sugar, as well as the calorie deficit and low fat. These are big stresses on the body that cause chronic stress for long periods of time. We need this fat. Fat got demonized, carbs got demonized. We need to have a good, varied, balanced diet. When we look at other levels of stress, like work stress from your business, relationship stress, all these things have a big impact on the way your body works. Then we can also have too much exercise. Now, this is one thing like become very well equipped with knowledge on the HPA axis for a reason, is that I've suffered from stage 1 HPA axis dysfunction in the past. And one of the big things that was impacting me is I was just smashing the gym. I was in great physical shape, it looked like on the outside when I was competing. In fact, you can see there's a picture there of me competing on stage. And that was in great physical shape. But inside, things weren't actually working effectively. And after that, I then got this adrenal fatigue as such in the form of hypothalamus pituitary axis dysfunction. So my adrenals weren't burning out, but I was getting the symptoms of what we would call burnout. And I had to do something about it. So I've become very well known with this. And looking into too much exercise is a big, big, big reason for us to have a lot of stress, because your body does not see physical stress, mental stress, environmental stress. It just sees stress. So we have to really, really realize that. So sleep, if you're not getting good sleep, that is going to be a big, big one. That if you're waking through the night to go to the toilet, stop kidding yourself that it is normal. It is common. And just because something is common does not make it normal. We have to look at that. Then we look at things like trauma, PTSD. Is there some work we can do there to get some counseling or some therapy to help people? Because we keep getting, and I use the word triggered, not in a negative way, but we keep getting this trigger that is making us have this high level of stress. And because our body is so used to it, we are 10 times the stress that we would normally have if we weren't having PTSD, flashbacks, and so on. But one big stress that we don't look at a lot, especially with Western medicine, is transgenerational stress. There are studies on people that were in Auschwitz and their grandchildren and their children that they still have signs of those stresses that their grandparents and their grandparents suffered. Children of people that survived through 9/11 are showing signs of trauma when they weren't even alive at that time, trauma linked with that. And it's something to bear in mind, is that we see stress as where we are right now. I've had multiple clients say, I do not feel stressed. I do not feel like I am in a stressed state. Why is my body not playing ball? Well, how was your childhood? Well, my parents split up. My mum was always like worrying about money, and then we had to make do. We were going to food banks, and I was bullied at school, and I was overweight. I didn't really do much exercise. We've got a big stressor there. Then what happened? Then I had a traumatic time that it's horrible, some of the things that some of the clients that I've worked with have been through, but things like getting abused and physically and mentally abused and being in abusive relationships 20 years ago, or simple as going traveling and getting an infection and you get a parasite from there and it's still living within you, as gross as that sounds. But these things make a massive difference. And we don't always take that into account to the here and now. Here and now is a makeup of, I'm 36. It would be a makeup of those 36 years that I've had gone on in my life. Now, if I look at my own history, that look at my grandparents, one of my grandparents, she used to live in what we call a slum. When we look at the history side of things, where there was like 15 people living in the same room. So there was a lot of poverty there. Then they get the scarcity mindset. And then she was bringing my mum up. And then look at my own history, that my nan lived through the wars, where Norwich was one of the very most bombed cities in the war. So there was a lot of stress there in World War II. And all other stresses going on. And I was born in 1986. Then my parents split up. I was overweight as a kid, very sedentary lifestyle, loved computer games. I always joke that I would be a millionaire from playing on computer games if my mum didn't tell me to get a proper job. Sorry, mum. It's true. I would be a professional gamer, but actually I'm having a bit more of an impact now on people's lives. So it's awesome and it's all good. But then parents splitting up, getting bullied at school for being overweight, getting bullied at school for loving hip hop. And when we talk about bullying, it's not the I'm getting beat up, but more like the psychological aspect of stress that I didn't want to go to school. And then there were facts that my dad died when I was 15 and he was 47. If you've followed me for some time, you will absolutely know my story, that Monday he was fine and he was suffering from stress. Hence why I've dived deeper into stress, my own stresses and my dad's stresses. So look at that. At 15 years old, we've already got a few things that could then have caused stress, which I've been dealing with over the last few years. Then add to after school, I went into music college, very poor lifestyle with very late nights, a lot of energy drinks, a lot of caffeine, poor diet, very overweight. Then I found the gym. Great. When I found the gym, I then ended up that I smashed the nutrition, the training and everything, and got on the bodybuilding stage. Healthy? Not in this case. It was healthier than where I was if we were going to use it in a nudge towards the right direction. But dropping all that weight and getting the psychological aspect that having muscle will make me confident wasn't the case. It made me very insecure. I had to work up here to make myself confident at what I would be able to do. So we can see already with those side of things. Then we went into the endurance world. Stupidly, I tried to do 2 marathons in a month when I hadn't even done one. Blew out both my Achilles. Stress there. I'm not going to say wedding was stress, but Then you have roller coasters of building businesses. A lot of people have been through ups and downs through COVID, different qualifications. Like you can see just from using my own experience there, the amount of different things that someone could have been through to lead them to this position right now. So it's understandable to see these signs of adrenal fatigue. I use that term lightly, of what people would think is adrenal fatigue, but more HPA axis dysfunction. And how do we sort that? We sort our stresses out. We sort our perception to our stresses out. We sort our nutrition out. So how could you help yourself? Being honest with where you're at. I was speaking to a client last night and he's been doing some traveling and he was like, this isn't happening, this isn't happening, this isn't happening. Okay, but have you worked out? How have your food been? And we said about getting his protein levels up. And he said, thank you for calling me out on my BS. And that is totally true. Sometimes we do need to be called out. Are we doing what we actually need to be doing? And most suffering, as I said to him, most suffering is because of inaction. Once we start taking action, we can pull ourselves away or push ourselves away or just get ourselves away from that suffering. It may take time, but action is going to stop suffering much more than inaction will. That's one of the truths of life. And sometimes we need to be honest with ourselves. Like myself, cutting down on workouts was massively needed. Doing so much cardio was not needed. Doing short sessions, going for restorative walks, getting out in nature, getting my wake times the same 7 days a week, roughly the same. Evening sleep times the same 7 days a week. Stop having so many binge outs from eating too clean throughout the week as such. Stop eating foods that didn't agree with my body, making sure I cut out all gluten, all dairy, looked at unprocessed foods as much as possible. All that is going to make a massive, massive difference. And this is where I ask yourself, are you doing everything you can to help yourself right now? I've spoken about, I've got my health screening, I've got my sleep solution, I've got a 21-day brain fog blitz coming. So message me if you want to get on the early bird list. 21 days where we're going to go through 3 weeks of videos and help you in a step-by-step action to get away from burnout. If you want information on that, message me. But above all, if you are suffering from burnout or from signs that you are going to burn out, do something about it and realize that, yes, we could push it through to the side. But if you've got these goals of building your 6-figure business to 7-figure and 8-figure and so on, how much is this stopping you? How much quicker would you be able to do it if your body was playing ball? If you didn't have to cancel calls, if you didn't have to take 2 hours for something that could take 30 minutes, if you were able to make the right decisions to hire the right team and send out the right emails, how much quicker would you get to those goals if your body was functioning better? If you were actually truly in peak performance and stopped getting sidetracked by all dopamine hitting biohacks and things like that. And if you need help with that, drop me a message. I am absolutely here for you. Drop me a message. Let's chat. Let's grab a virtual coffee, or if you're local, let's grab a coffee. But start taking action. I promise you, action is the thing. When we are truly, truly honest up here with ourselves and our mind, when we are honest with ourselves of where we are at and what has been causing this, and we impact our health with fixing things like our HPA axis, and we can do tests on that as well. My clients get access to these tests, then you can start moving forward. But I appreciate it. I appreciate you for watching. I appreciate you for listening, however you've consumed this content, but start taking action.